Well, hello, my friends. Some of my biggest struggles in life have been holding expectations for myself or for somebody else. Another area of frustration for me is urgency. When I feel that something needs to urgently be done, or somebody comes to me thinking that they have an urgency that I need to answer or help with. My friends, these are areas that I have found have given me stress in my life. Now, this is fascinating for me as a life coach, is that it's not somebody coming to you that has urgency. It's not even the urgency that you're feeling inside, nor is it the expectations that you have of yourself or of somebody else. It is all within what you're making that believe and mean in your life. What are you believing that expectations are? Why do you believe you need to have them? How do they serve you, and do they? Or do they not serve you? One of the things that I have found with expectations is that I get a statement from a lot of people when I'm coaching, and they have the belief that I'm just not a very good communicator. And in fact, this is a belief that I used to have for a long time when it came to my communication skills. I was like, I am not a very good communicator. I don't get things across the right way. I'm misinterpreted. And I think what was going on when I look back at that in my life is that I was having expectations of myself or somebody else. And as soon as I spoke the words out of my mouth, I believed that it wasn't being met. Like I wasn't doing good enough. Like I should be explaining this better. And so I already self-doubted myself before I even spoke the words. Expectations can be really something that can weigh us down. So I want to show or share with you just some ideas and concepts that might help you when it comes to diminishing expectations in your life, and how you can do that in a sense where you start to get clear on what it is that you want and how you want to show up. And then what can really happen is then you drop a lot less expectations of other people because you see your own self in expectations, in the sense that you see that you miss them, that you hit them, that you fall short a lot of times, whatever you do, then you can see that in others and you realize, oh, they're just human beings too, like me. Like I always love the saying, we are spiritual beings having a human experience, one of my favorite sayings. And I believe when it comes to expectations and urgency, if we keep that in mind, we can really start to connect to people better than what we are with communication. Like I said, I get a lot of people that say, oh, people just don't understand me. I'm trying to say things and it's not coming across the right way. I want to offer to you that it might be that you're believing that it's not before you even give yourself a shot. Like you've already believed with self-doubt, you're feeling self-doubt in your body. And because of that, you're saying these words that they're just not understanding me. I'm not a good communicator. And now you're believing that. And then you're using it as evidence against yourself and these expectations that you have of yourself and of others. So how do you diminish expectations but still get things done? Right? Like, wait a minute, if I don't have expectations for myself, I'm not going to accomplish anything. So I want to say that that might not be true. In fact, I know in my life that it's not true. And that's because I really have dropped expectations of myself. And when I do that, I have found that I am more productive. I have found that when I have a standard or an idea that I'm expected that I'm supposed to be doing, and I don't live up to that standard, that I fall short, then I don't even follow through with it. I don't even continue on with it because I believe, why even bother? Like I'm not going to hit that standard. The truth is that when I start to decide to believe that I am doing good, that I am learning, I'm growing, I'm getting better at this, when I start to believe that, even if I don't have evidence of it, that's the fascinating part. We really don't need a lot of evidence of it because our mind will find evidence in everything, whether it's right a negative or positive view, I guess we could say. But whether it's however we're viewing things, we can find and pick up however we want to see in the lives. And then what happens is then you start to see that more often. Like, example, have you ever thought about buying a car? And then you've even thought about the car, and then you notice that you see that car more places on the street. And you're like, wow, I never really realized that there was this many Subarus out here. And now that I want to buy a Subaru, I see them everywhere. The truth is, you've already created that that's what you want. And so the universe is literally just offering it to you. It's not that that Subaru wasn't there before. You just didn't pay the attention to it. And that's okay. You don't have to pay attention to everything. Think about if you had to pay attention to every detail in your life. That would be, woo, that's a lot. But knowing that we don't have to pay every attention to everything out here, but when we get more focused on in here and intent of what we want to create, we can start creating this in our lives without expectations. I mean, isn't that exciting? We don't have to have an expectation that we have to be here. We meet here and we think we failed, and then we don't even try. What we could do instead is we could be willing to get things wrong. We can be willing to be open to learn. We can be willing to try something and see what happens. When we open up to the willingness of just giving it a try, like, you know what, I'll give that a try. I wonder what'll happen. Let's see. And you're just willing to like put information out there and just see what kind of comes down the street. Not because you're seeing, because you're like, well, not unless something happens, I'm not going to move forward. How I look at it now is that I put stuff out there and I'm continually wanting to create more and put more out there. I'm not waiting for the return on everything else that I put out there. I'm too busy putting everything out there because that's just what I want to do. I don't have an expectation that I have to do this so much better or I have to improve this, but I do want to look at my data as I go through it and see what's working, what's not working with my life, right? What's working in my relationships, what's not working, how I could improve things, how I might be able to communicate better with my boys. Instead of having an expectation that I need to be this kind of mom, I need to be this kind of wife, I need to be this kind of saint, right? When I go to church, I got to be this kind of person. Instead of having these expectations, I look at it and go, wait, I'm just I'm me, I'm Angela. And I don't need these expectations on me. I could put them on me if I want to. I definitely can. And it's kind of like sit back and go, well, why do we put these expectations on us? Like, who's keeping track? Who's really keeping track of expectations? And it's funny, it's like the only person really keeping track is you. I think when I found that out, that I was like keeping track of expectations and I was going, oh, like nobody knows that I did this or didn't do that or whatever. Like, but I know that I didn't try that. I know that I got this close, but I didn't go the rest of the way because I was like, oh, it's not good enough. Right? I know that. Nobody else does. And it's bothering me. It's not, nobody else has been shorted because I'm not doing that. But then what's fascinating is that then when I kind of turned it on myself, I said, actually, yes, because somebody else did something that I wanted or enjoyed, right? Somebody maybe created something that I purchased and bought. I am so grateful that they created that they chose to follow through and do that. And now I look at it and go, wait a minute. If I don't get my stuff out there, if I don't try to connect with people, if I don't try to become a better mother, if I don't try to do those things, like learn from my mistakes and just try to get better and just try to be me, like not get better, but just be me, then I'll never know. I'm literally like sitting in the what will, right? What will happen? Well, I don't know. What if I fail? What if I do this? And that's when we kind of get stuck. And so I have found one of the things is with expectations is I just look at it as like, what am I going to learn today? Who do I want to reach out today with? What can I learn from this person today? How can I grow today? Is it time for me to call my mother? Is it time for me to call my dad, right? Is it time for me to call one of my siblings? Should I be talking to them? Like, what does that look like in my day? And why is that important to me? And then I live it. Because that is what makes me, me, as opposed to an expectation that I think I have of myself that I need to live up to. Instead, I'm just enjoying my journey. I'm just moving forward and going, oh, I'm learning from all of this. This is so good. This is such good stuff I get to learn. And then what I find is as I learn through that process, and I'm learning that, right? I'm just this spiritual being having human experiences, making a lot of human mistakes. I drop the expectations I have for other people because I realize they're just humans too, doing their job, trying to figure out their thing. And one thing about expectations I realize is that I don't like people to expect things out of me. Do you? I mean, think about it for a second. Do you want people to be like, well, I expected you to do better. I expected this out of you. And when I hear that, it makes me think like, oh, I think about like disappointing somebody and feeling just terrible about it. And I thought, gosh, I don't want people to feel that way of expectations, because if I'm having an expectation of them and they fell short, that's on me and my thinking of what I believe they should have done. It's only between my ears, my thought and my belief of what I believe they should have been doing, that was the problem. But now I just blamed it on my kids, right? Because I expected them to behave differently, to be better. It's like, oh, why did you behave that way? Why are you doing this? Instead of like having these expectations for people and anybody in our lives, right? So I find that without expectations, when I drop those, my life feels so much more intent. I feel more like I'm doing things intentionally, that I'm living the way that I want to live, that I'm connecting to myself, and then it gives me the opportunity to connect to other people in a way that matters to me. And I hope it matters to them too. I hope I can be there for them. And then I drop expectations of other people. Now, I make requests in my life all the time. I make lots of requests. I like to make requests. Why not? I want people to make requests to me. And then I will let them know if I can or cannot do that, right? Just like when I make a request to somebody, they'll let me know if they can or cannot do that. But if I have an expectation of them when I'm making a request, then I'm really not making a request. I'm making an expectation. So it's really getting clear with what's going on for you when you're making that, in your life, and what's happening there for you, and just getting clear with that. So let's go into urgencies. Now, urgency. Now, this is kind of interesting thing about urgency. Like, I used to respond to things pretty quickly when I was younger. I would say the last 10 years or so, maybe not so much. Like, maybe I didn't respond to things as much. And there was events I've had in my life where just being present for that day was all I needed, and there was no such thing as an urgency to me. And if I didn't get a call from somebody, or if I didn't answer when they needed me, I didn't feel like a bad person during that day and that time. And when you have events like that in your life where you realize that what matters is what's here right now, urgency kind of takes a back seat. Yes, emergencies happen. People do need you and things need to be going on, agreed. But the way I respond to them is so different than how I used to. I used to feel guilt and shame if I didn't respond fast enough. I used to think that I wasn't doing enough. Or when they did call me, I was more urgent with them as well. Like, they would be like, oh my gosh, I need help. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to drop everything and come help you now. And so then we have two people high up here pretty much in fight or flight, right? Like, just really in that reactive motive. And instead of being like somebody being calm in it, like if they're excited, if there's something going on and they're having urgency, I want them to have that moment to be able to call me and tell me what's going on. And if I can keep mellow about it, then it helps them too. We really do radiate to what it is that we vibrate out into this world. Whatever kind of vibrations we're sending out is going to radiate within us and within the people around us. And so the more we are able to look at things as not in a rush, that there is an urgency, that isn't me done right now, that it's going to get done. Don't worry, we'll take care of it. It'll be okay. Or even asking them, like, what's the next step that you need to do now that you know this? So helping people when it comes to urgency to not kind of pile into it like ourselves, right? We kind of might get ourselves stuck and tangled into it, and then we get into that urgency mode. And it's kind of like just kind of catapults, or what's the word, just falls, rolls down the hill together. So snowball effect, that's what I was looking for. And that doesn't help anybody. But one thing for me too with urgencies is I don't put notifications on my phone. I check at certain times. That's it. I really do try to just respond back. And if I have days that I don't have as much, then I'll respond more faster, right? On days that I am, that I don't feel bad that I didn't, because I was in the present moment at that time, whether I was with a client, whether I was making content that I was creating, like this video, and I'm here and doing this. I want to be present for this. Because I want to be present for the person that I'm creating this video for, that's going to watch it, that it's going to add value to their life, and they're going to start to go, okay, urgency and expectations. Maybe I need to explore that for myself and find out, how do I hold those in my life? And what is it maybe that I can start doing going forward that I don't have to respond the way I do with urgencies, and I don't have to respond the way that I do with expectations. And urgency and expectations can collide, right? We can be in an urgent thing, and then we could be expecting somebody to come in to help us, expecting that they're going to answer and solve our problems. And I've been on that end too, where I expected somebody to come in and help me. I expected this to happen. And in fact, just recently I had it be where my car couldn't start. So I was at a meeting with somebody, and I went to my car and it wasn't starting. And so I was like, oh, so I called my husband. He happened to be around. He was able to, he says, okay, it'll be about a half an hour till I get there. And I said, okay. He goes, what were you going to do if I didn't? I go, well, I figured I'd call Uber and get a ride home, and I'll have to, come home and talk to somebody and figure out what it needs to be done. I mean, I'm not going to panic over it. I can't. I tried to stop my car and it wouldn't work. So some people, right, before in the past, like some people, me, example, the bads would be like, oh my gosh, this needs to be happening. And if my husband wasn't picking up the phone, I'd be like, why is he not answering the phone? Doesn't he know that well, maybe not. But it's like, before we even get there, knowing the options that we have and planning ahead of time can help us not to respond and react so much to urgencies and expectations. And so as we start to delegate things in our lives, and we start to become the creator of our lives, and we start to create things that we see valuable, can be valuable and be able to add to this world, when we start to do that, what happens is that we planning things on what's going to be coming down the road. And then when stuff comes up, we don't feel like we're sideswiped, right? We don't feel like, oh my gosh, now I've got to respond this way. Instead, we're like, oh, yeah, that's something. These are. I can do this. I can do this. I can do that. Right? I've got options now. I've opened myself up to options instead of closed it down that there can't be any options. So I hope this stuff was helpful. I hope it made you think a little bit about urgencies and expectations and how they kind of combined together, and how we can have expectations of ourselves and others, and how we can have urgencies with ourselves and with others, and are responding to that. And finding ways in which you can start to be clear with yourself so that you don't have expectations of you or anybody else, but you still create and set goals and get stuff done, and you're doing it and you're creating it, right? Without an expectation. You can do that. I promise. It is available to you. And it's you discovering what belief you would want to be having in order to do that and create that. And with urgency, if somebody comes urgent to you, you don't have to rise on their level. And if something happens to you that's an urgency, you can have more possibilities on the table, so that instead of responding and reacting in a way that isn't going to solve the problem, you are then a problem solver to begin with. You're looking at already possibilities, because I had these in row, what I would do if this happened. So my friends, enjoy this content. Think about it. Ponder it. Figure out for yourself, what do you believe that you would need to start believing that you don't have to have expectations? What would that take? And if you want help with that, that is what I do. As a life coach, I love helping people who are going through a transition in their life, and they are struggling with it. They're not sure which direction to go, and they just don't feel grounded. They feel like they're latching on to everything out here, like, should I do this career? Should I do that career, right? Career choices. Or when it comes to your kids are leaving, you're going to be an empty nest. You're like, I don't know what to do. Me and my significant other, we just not used to being with each other without a buffer, right? Without the kids. So what's that going to look like for us? or whether it's retirement's coming and you're just not sure as well with that, right? Now that you don't have the job between that, now you really don't have a buffer between each other, whatever that looks like, right? And then one of my things that I also love doing is helping those that are going into assisted living. So if you have a family member that's going into assisted living, your parent, your in-law, and you're struggling with that and with that relationship, I'd love to help you with that. That is a transition in life. Transitions happen in life. They come in all different ways, all different sizes, and I love helping people through transitions because my goal is to help you ground yourself so much, and I show you tools and ways to do that so that you can create exactly what you want. And it's right there for you. It's available to you, I promise. All right, my friends, take care. I look forward to talking to you soon. Bye.